Once we start spring practice, I think once they kind of get through all the application stuff that they got to go through, then I can formally talk about the guys that, like I said, there'll be 3 or 4 guys out there that we'll bring in this summer, but compliance said I could not formally talk about that today. So there you go.
Coach, I'd like to get your first impressions of DJ, and obviously everybody knows about his arm talent, but many have characterized him as more of a Ben Roethlisberger type as far as his running ability, but Coach Streeter was telling me that his athleticism is really underrated. Does he fit what you like to do pretty well just from a running quarterback?
He can do anything. That's what they said about Trevor too when he came in. He apparently wasn't a guy that could run. I think that myth has gone out the window. DJ can do anything you want him to. I mean, he's fast and strong and powerful, and he's a very, very athletic guy. So there's nothing that we need him to do that he can't do.
Yeah, but what does it mean to have Travis back? And was any part of you surprised that he?
Well, I mean, the answer is no. I was initially surprised a little bit because he really told me before the bowl game that he was really leaning to coming back. Because usually when I meet with these guys, and we have a ton of information, and Woody does a great job really kind of managing all that, and meeting with the scouts and getting the grades and really getting a detailed report on exactly where these guys are. Not all the .com stuff, but exactly where they are, and it's just very important. And so when I meet with these guys, because sometimes it's a waste of my time. So I always ask them. I'm like, before I ever even tell them anything, I'm like, what's your mindset right now? Because I've had some guys. It doesn't matter what I tell them. I mean, I could tell them. I've had some guys that I've told you're not going to be drafted, and they'll look at you and say, I think I will, and they leave. So okay, at the end of the day, they got to make the decision, and they have their mind made up. And I mean, so there's really no sense in us sitting around, having a big in-depth conversation if they've got their mind made up. But I will say, well, here's kind of where it's going to be, and they'll say, well, I'm good with that. And then sometimes you have guys that see the bigger picture, and some guys are patient, some guys are not patient. Everybody's motivated by different factors, and they have different dynamics in their lives, whatever. It's really unpredictable that way. But I usually ask them kind of where you are. And so when I sat down with Trav, that was the first thing I said. I said, I knew what his grade was. I knew what the comments were. And I said, tell me what you're thinking right now before we get into this. And he said, honestly? And I was like, yeah. He said, I'm thinking about coming back, Coach. And I went, really? So that surprised me a little bit because I felt like he was probably going to be more, well, I really want to just kind of see what you got to say before I get into it. But he really was kind of leaning that way. And and I said, well, why is that? And he said, told me why. And I said, okay, well, we got a conversation that we need to have then. Here's this information, and let's talk about it. And let's talk about what that means and so forth. But so I wasn't surprised after the bowl game that he said, hey, I'm coming back, and he was pumped up to tell me, and he's enjoyed his time, and I think that for him, he got a second round grade, and I think for him, if he leaves here as a second rounder next year, I mean, he'll do cartwheels, but he's got his degree. He feels like he's a little more ready. He feels complete. And I just think, leaving early for him as a second rounder, I think he felt a little incomplete. And so I think he's the best back in the country in this period. But obviously I'm pretty biased when it comes to that. But he's got a great future ahead of him, and I'm excited about the fact that he's back. He'll be a great leader. He's been awesome already. We got him for another, I don't know how long. We don't have not long, but 9-10 months or so, nine more months or so. But I do think that's got a chance to really pay off for him. So it should be fun. it's nice to know he's back. I'd already given his number 9 away. Had about 10 people wanting his number 9. These old boys, man, they're vultures. Vultures around here with them numbers. So had a line of guys with 9. I'm like, yeah, not so fast. Have to find another number.
How did he tell you?
How did he tell me? Well, he called. He called me and Woody, and we were having a team meeting. I think it was that Friday. We were having our getting ready to start recruiting, and I like to kind of get a new team together and kind of give everybody some direction when you come off that last game, because it's kind of limbo time. So we were getting ready for a weekend and our banquet and all that stuff, and so he called me before that and told me he was on his way back, and he took a day and about 2 days to really think about it and talk through it with his family, and so that's what I found out. He just called.
Dabo, with the change in the recruiting signing dates to December and the success of the program going so further into the year, how much has that affected you guys as far as implementing your recruiting plans?
It hasn't really changed anything for us, to be honest with you. I mean, if you guys that follow us, y'all know the great majority of our class has usually been committed in the summer, usually by August. So to be honest with you, most of our guys would sign in August if they were allowed to. So it really hasn't changed anything for us. The only thing that's changed is we actually take that day in December to sign the guys. That's really the only thing, and that's been fun. Just kind of the last couple of years, it's just a part of what we do. But that part hasn't changed anything. We don't do spring official visits. A lot of people do those. That's a new rule that passed a couple of years ago. We've not done any. We don't do any spring official visits. I just think that again, it's easy to take an official visit. It's a little more hard. It's a little harder to come on your own, and but you got to really be interested to come on your own. So it's just kind of been our philosophy. That's what we do. It hasn't changed anything for us, with the exception of it's changed our January for the better, because our guys they've all signed, and so now instead of spending all of January, riding around, chasing. 'Cause a lot of our guys are mid-years too. For whatever reason, that's kind of what happens in today's culture. So last year I think we had 17 mid-years. This year we got 15. So most of those guys would be signing anyway in here. So the opportunity those guys have to get it out of the way, it's been great. It's been great for us. It's been great for them. And so we still go see those guys in January that aren't here yet. But really it allows us to kind of get a head start in our evaluation for next year's class and start, really working hard on that due diligence and zeroing in on next year's group.
Yeah, but what was your conversations with Chase? Ultimately, his decision to go to do.
Yeah, it was great. We spent a lot of time talking together, and I called David. We talked about what the options were, and just making sure we get in the right situation, the right spot. I mean, I love Chase. He's been amazing, and to me, just as I've said many times, graduation should create opportunities and options for young people. It's just the way it is, and he's put the work in, and he came to Clemson. He achieved what he came here to do, and the fact that he's gotten his degrees created some other opportunities. It's like another senior, moving on, whether they're moving on to a job or they're moving on to the NFL. And what he did on the field here has also created opportunity for himself. It's not like he's some slug that nobody knows. I mean, this guy can play. I think he's a pro. Personally, I think he's a guy that's going to really have a great shot to play at the next level. I think we had the two best quarterbacks in the ACC on the same team last year. It's what I think. I think he's that good. And so, I tried to give him some, he was great, and especially how he handled it. Because I'm going to tell you, Chase, he prepared every single week as if he was the starter. And he was into every play. I mean, Chase and I would talk a lot during games. And he's very in tune to the game, very in tune to Trevor. He's making suggestions, telling me what he sees, and he was almost like a coach, but he was very in tune to what's going on, and just such a selfless young man, so committed to his role, and so prepared to go win the game. And he played. I think he probably played the most snaps of any backup in the country, where the starter didn't get hurt. I mean, so he's got a lot of tape, and a lot of opportunity to play and develop. I think that was important to me, for him to have that opportunity, because he deserved it. And we never even talked about it. Never. First time I've assumed maybe it would be something he would consider, but he wouldn't even entertain the conversation ever. He was just focused on what he was doing and this team and being a great teammate and being ready for his team. He once the season was over, he called me when we got back, and we had a good talk about it. We met, and we talked about kind of some options and kind of what we're looking for and what he was looking for, I'm very, very happy that it worked out for him to go to Duke. And I called David. We had a great conversation. Coach Cutt's one of the best people I know. I mean, he's one of the top 2 or 3 people that I would call for anything. And so just a ton of respect for him. And I think, and obviously he's got a great background with quarterbacks. And so I think it's a good fit. He's got a couple of high school teammates up there. So I think it's a great opportunity for Chase, and super excited for him.
Dabo, how have